Okay, so in this video we'll be looking at maximum prices. A maximum price is a price ceiling on a good or service which is legally imposed, often by the government. Examples of this, we've got rent control. In some cities, governments impose a maximum price on rent to stop landlords exploiting renters. Also utilities, in terms of like energy crises, just to help people with the cost of living, governments will impose regulation, or regulators will, on the price of utilities. We've got public transport, again, on a distributional ground, so that people can afford to, commute to work and can afford to have a job, etc. Additionally, in times of emergency, we can get maximum prices on food, again, so people can afford the basic essential goods for living. So we'll look at a graph of this and kind of examine the welfare implications. So we want our axes. Price on the y-axis, quantity on the x, and we'll draw normal equilibrium, so demand and supply. Intersect is the equilibrium point, P star, Q star. But if a maximum price is imposed, this is going to be below the market price. So max price, this is at PM, and this intersects with supply here, so this is QS, intersects with demand here, so that's QD. If we just draw these lines up a little bit, we can label A, B, C, D and E. So if we examine the welfare implications of this maximum price, we have the producer surplus, which before the maximum price was imposed, the producer surplus is always the part above the supply curve, and this highlighter is not working very well, and below the equilibrium line. So we have C plus D plus E, C add D add E, and then we've got the consumer surplus, which is the part above the equilibrium line and below the demand curve, which is A add B. And then we have the, after the maximum price has been imposed, then we have the new price at PM. And however, because the price is lower, suppliers aren't going to want to supply as much. And so this is actually how much is being supplied in the market. As a result of this, there is an excess in demand, whereas if things are cheaper, people are going to want more, people are going to want to supply less. Ultimately, you are limited by supply. And so this is the kind of the final supply level in the economy. And so the new producer surplus, the price is now lower, so that the producers are earning a lower price, and they're getting fewer quantities, so it shrinks from C plus D plus E simply just to E. And then the new consumer surplus, well, they're benefiting because they're getting lower prices, and so they gain block C. However, they're also getting these lower prices in a lower quantity, and so they're losing B. And so we get, for consumer surplus, we get A add C for the new one. And so the change, let's just state that these are new, the change in producer surplus would be E minus C minus D, which is equal to minus C and minus D. And the change in consumer surplus is equal to A add C minus A minus B, which is equal to C minus B. And so if we add the change in producer surplus and the change in consumer surplus, which is equal to our dead weight loss, we get minus D minus B, which is this little triangle right here. And so on first glance, we think consumers have gained, right? Because they're getting a lower price. However, this is not always the case. And I'm going to draw a diagram to show this is not always the case. And it's not always the case when this B here is greater than C, because consumers gain this box C when a maximum price has been imposed and they lose B. However, if B outweighs C, then they're actually losing more than they're gaining. And this happens when demand is relatively inelastic. So if we just draw another diagram with quantity, price, supply, and a really inelastic demand curve. P star, Q star, P max, MQS, quantity demanded, all the way up here, A, B, C, D, E. If we look at the consumer surplus again before the maximum price, it would be A add B. However, after it would be A add C, and so we're losing B and gaining C. But we can see here that the area of this triangle B is greater than the area of the rectangle C, and so consumers are actually losing. And it's because demand's relatively inelastic, meaning consumers really want that good, so they're actually willing to pay a higher price anyway. And so the disutility or the negative gain from losing these units outweighs the positive gain by a lower price. So that's a basic overview of maximum prices. Taking into account this nuance is really valuable, because when you look at a maximum price, you think, oh, that's indefinitely going to benefit consumers, but as we've seen, that is not always the case.